Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Femmegineering Women of Influence. I am your host, Hanna Abdel Hamid. Today, I have the pleasure of having with us a guest who started her career with a degree in foreign languages, driven by a passion for inclusive communication. She later became the first to introduce AI and automatic translation at her university in Italy. And this led her to pursue a master's degree and then a PhD in computer science, programming, and natural language processing in France. Stefania has helped businesses across education, biotech, manufacturing, and gaming to integrate AI powered solutions. And she decided that she was not that busy, so she decided to add more to her task by being a dedicated mentor and advocate for women in tech, by leading Women Techmakers in Montreal, and also by serving as an AI expert for UNESCO's Women for Ethical AI program. Stefania Pecore, I am very happy to have you here with us today, and I can't wait for you to share your story with us.
Yeah, hello. I'm very happy to. Thank you for this invitation. My story for AI is a very long and maybe weird one. So basically, I'm not a technical person. First of all, I started with a bachelor in foreign languages, and at some point, I was like, okay, I can speak several languages, but is it necessary for everybody to speak several languages to talk with other people? And that's why I was discussing with my tutor at the time, and I discovered something that was translation with machines.
Okay.
So that was the beginning, basically. So I started with this thesis. It was a very weird one in my faculty because, as I said, it was a foreign languages faculty. So something so tech was like, what is this? And in Italy, it was not at that time very developed in general,
Okay.
AI and NLP. So that's why I decided to go to France. And then from there, basically, I entered all the research and academy, not only for my master's, but also for the PhD, where I was able also not only to do research, also be a lecturer for AI. And at some point, especially during pandemics, I asked myself if I tried everything that I wanted to try because, in pandemics, we didn't know what will happen next.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and at that point, I was like, okay, I always loved video games because there is that part of simulation. And Ottawa for my postdoc. And
Okay.
at the end of my postdoc, I was able to get a job in the video game industry in Montreal, and that's where I am right now. And I was able basically to implement NLP, different stages of the production. I was also a senior data scientist, so I was more involved with the other stakeholders. So it was not only NLP, it was different stage on how we can basically use AI and data science when we work in a company. And after that, basically my postdoc was about how to apply AI models for mental health, especially for teens and in social media. So I've always been interested also in the, we can say, healthcare part. And I got this opportunity to have my position where I'm working right now in healthcare, where basically I try to make sure that I can use in a responsible way AI to help patients with cancers.
That is actually very impressive, Stefania, and it really shows a very powerful perspective because, in essence, your experience, you're seeing AI as a bridge that extends beyond disciplines. And I find it very incredible and also a bit challenging, how your expertise has touched so many industries. You mentioned healthcare, you mentioned video games. And I know, from our previous conversation, you also touched manufacturing and home automation. And all these fields, honestly, it was hard for me, how do they fit in the puzzle all together? So that brings my question, like my next question. How have all these experiences shaped your perspective on AI and how it's applied across different industries?
So that's a very interesting question. And I think in some way it touches also what I do as a collaboration with UNESCO. I've been always thought that AI, so no matter which type of AI, if we are talking about machine learning, data science, and so on, it is a tool for basically the users. So the ones who will use whatever product that will integrate those technologies. So probably first of all, one thing that I always try to make sure to have is the user in mind. And if we think about also my basically what I did from the bachelor in foreign languages to then the master and PhD, it was always user-centered. It was always my motto. We should like use all this technology and knowledge to make sure that we can help and support others. And what I discovered is that it's true that the different industries have different products, have different challenges, have different users because the market are also different. I worked in Canada but also in Europe, so sometimes we have also different challenges in that space, but we don't produce products on their own. They are always used by someone. So basically the core concept can be reused in different sources that are basically the context of use of the product itself. So probably if we think about NLP application, we will have different lexicons or we will have different models that are specialized for different languages and different jargon. But the core concept of how these models work and how it should be used in a responsible way are pretty the same no matter what is your industry.
So, in other words, we can say that AI is not just industry specific, but it's more about how we innovate it and how we adapt it to different industries.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that is really important also to highlight is that as humans, we have this power that basically we can use that technology, and then it's us that will shape how to use it into the different industries. And again, it's really this human-centric approach, not only for the users, but also for the people that are building the different applications.
Very interesting. So it also takes some kind of creativity.
Oh
And
yeah.
Stefania, I noticed that you have a passion for NLP, which was a very important part of your education. And now you're mentioning, you brought the word user-centered. I'm thinking of the user a lot. So with all this in mind, what sparked in you that interest to really start applying AI and NLP together?
Okay, so in general, especially when we talk about AI, NLP, and users, I can say that I have, I will not call it as a bias, but kinda, I have influences, we can
Okay.
say, okay?
Yes.
Because not only for my passion of put the user in the center of everything, but I studied user research and design because I like with my passion in AI, I always thought that at some point UX and AI will work together very, very like as a joint collaboration. And at the same time, I also worked with a lot of user research teams. So I've been like breathing all this user inspiring way to make sure that products are centered for the users. So we can say that it will be like right now we can say that AI and NLP are user centered in the sense that if you think about traditional machine learning application, they were only related to some part of the population, so researchers, for
Yeah.
example. Right now, the common user have those tools in their hands, which is good, which might be also not so good. It all depends on the kind of tools that we have, and also if the tool itself or organization, association, politics also if they are like educating the user to be in a powerful position for these tools and also in control of what they are doing. But in general, both AI and NLP are going into the direction where not only the expert of the researcher is the one who is able to use it, but they are user friendly, so no matter who can really enjoy as a users, and we are aware observing that also as a builders of third tools, which is great in terms of creativity too.
I could not agree more. And I really like, how you're approaching this, because many people, and especially those perhaps who have not spent a lot of time understanding what AI is, and nowadays you hear a lot about fears, are we going to lose our jobs because of AI? And I like that all along the conversation that we're having now and we've had in the past is that you don't speak of AI in terms of it replacing human intelligence, but more as a tool to enhance our capabilities, our creativity, and problem solving. So, can you just touch more a bit about how AI can help enhance our everyday task, our lives in general?
So yeah, I mean, I can say that I think 5 or 6 years ago, so before the explosion of generative AI in general, I always said that it's not AI the challenge, it's more on how we use AI. So it's kind of, I will say, superficial. If we think about it, it's a tool that will replace humans. It's probably the people behind the tools that are not doing a great job in make sure that everybody is included when we embrace new technology. And honestly, I think also that AI is a tool, and as a human, we have a lot of power, a lot of creativity, a lot of stuff that AI cannot do. That's why also I believe that AI is really something that we can use as a sort of support. Like if we think about people many years ago, centuries ago, they didn't have, I don't know, Word or Google Doc. So
Yeah.
they were writing in a different way, but we still have authors, even if we have right now Word and other tools. And I think AI is the same. We can use AI, for example, to make sure that we want to brainstorm something and we want something that maybe is out of the lines, out of the box. We can use AI to also to play with the hallucination, making sure that we understand what is a hallucination. So again, it's the user-centered and in control of what it's doing to have more ideas. And it's not only for the NLP part, so the textual part, but it might be also for images. I know that there are a lot of artists that they will try to have a core idea and then try to also be inspired by all the creativity that, however, we can say the aleatory way that AI has to produce those images can give to the user. I can think about use AI as a template if we have repetitive tasks. So this is something that support humans because they don't need really to do repetitive stuff, and they can use their time in things that honestly AI cannot excel. And for example, it might also be why I have a list of tasks and communication that more or less are always the same. I will give those to the AI. And then I can, for example, focus on my clients, creating one-to-one on having their conversation. I can focus on having more free time instead of doing stuff that, again, they are repetitive. So there is not a lot to do. What else? I will say also one thing that I experienced, it was also the onboarding of people. If you think about coding, it's true that there are some standards, but then when you enter in a new company, you have a programming team, and probably they have some substance. And sometimes, especially when you are in the production, you don't have a lot of time to really do the onboarding. So what you can do is basically try to support the new hire in being more comfortable for the rules on how to code and how to handle all the documentation by using a sort of AI assistant. So that then the programmer can focus on asking some specific questions that cannot be replied with an AI, or just creating some like rapport with their colleagues.
So basically, if we can sum up, AI offers us endless opportunities to be more efficient in our work.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's actually amazing. And now let's move to another topic. I know from past conversation with you that you are working in biotech and AI is transforming this industry like many other industries. And with biotech and AI, the potential impact on patient care can truly be life changing. So, in your current role as director of AI in biotech, can you, and I'm pretty sure, like, it's very NDA protected, but can you give us high level, how we can expect AI to have a positive impact on healthcare in general, or more specifically in the field of biotech, if you're able to share some examples?
Yeah, honestly, I can basically report what is happening also like worldwide. We have, however, some organization, especially in the United States, that are able to create different agents or, for example, different models that will be applied in the analysis of the reports and images for cancers. So basically, I remember I was invited at Cloud Next last year, and there was the Mayo Clinic that were showing an example on how they use it, and they were able to predict, or better classify, the beginning of a cancer breast that was not even seen by the medical team, and that you can imagine
Yeah, that's
how
very impressive.
important it is.
Yeah, exactly. Because when cancer is detected earlier, more chance for people to recover from it and to beat it. So that's actually amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing that, for example, I don't remember right now the company, but basically they show how they're using NLP to make sure that the reports are, first of all, summarized in a way that, however, the doctors will be able to have the text behind, so they can really see how have been the text summarized for them, so they don't lose information, but at the same time they have basically a sum up for each patient that they are following, and also a list of priorities. This means that if you are, I don't know, following a patient, you will have a list of priority on real time or almost real time of who you need to call next as soon as possible and why, which is something that has been shown that can basically reduce the burnout, because, however, this is something that we always had in the medical sector, but after pandemics we have a lot of people that have more and more patients, less doctors, so this means also a high probability that doctors will experience burnout during their career. So I will say, for now, this is what I've been observing. I was discussing this with another researcher. She is also in the healthcare sector. One thing that probably we see often is that we talk about being faster in detecting certain disease, or being faster in basically the relation doctor and patient and what is around. One thing that probably I would love to see more, and that I don't hear a lot about it, is how AI will be able to make sure that patients that right now cannot afford healthcare, or they are a little, we can say, invisible for healthcare, I will be able
To
to,
support them.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's actually a very good problem to think about, because in rural areas in Canada or very up north, my sister is a nurse, and like, you've touched so many things. And I remember during the pandemic, she almost burnt out because so many patients, and you live in Canada too, so our health system, although it's free of charge, we have
Yeah.
amazing doctors, but the wait time and the schedule of the doctors and the nurses is really packed, if I can say it this way. So yes, burnout, and we've seen a lot of medical professionals get burned out after the pandemic, but also people who live in
Remote area.
no, yes, it's very hard for them to have accessibility to health very fast. So I think this is actually a very good research topic to think about and
Oh
to work
yeah.
on, because you will have a great impact firsthand of many people, and health is very important. So I'd love to keep up with you and see what you will do in this area. And this leads me to a broader question. How can AI, particularly NLP large language models, can contribute to the advancements of healthcare and in biotech?
I will say probably I see them again. I believe that, however, we need to make sure that doctors are always in control. Probably one thing that they will support healthcare is again all the administrative parts.
Okay.
It will be easier because especially if we think about Canada, but it's not only Canada, honestly, it's also other countries and also countries among them, which is, we can say, is not something that I'm happy about, because we have a lot of data and we have probably similar challenges, and we don't have the same systems to share, which is something that happens in like worldwide, but also in Canada between the different provinces. So probably it will be a way they will be used to make sure that doctors are less in the administrative part and more patient focused. So I hope that that will help doctors to prevent burnout, but also to have a better quality time with their patient. Probably it will help also to make sure that we will have some common disease that are handled like faster,
Okay.
so that we can say low priority type of sickness will be handled, I will not say automatically, but in a hybrid way, so that, for example, I don't know if you heard about, but I have a lot of people that when they are sick, even for something that is not like a giant stuff, it might be a fever, they need to go to the hospital because they don't
Yes.
have a doctor.
Yes.
And
I've
they
seen
need
that firsthand actually.
they need to stay 12 hours waiting.
Yeah, waiting. And I mean,
Yeah. So
space at the hospital, and the nurse that does the triage to see. And I always like, I don't want to judge people, but when I have two kids, I don't know if I mentioned that to you. So when they were younger, and my kids, like, they're always sick, so a lot of times I have to go to the hospital, and I would see like young people sitting there talking and laughing, and I was like, why are you even here? Like, oh, I'm not feeling too well, so. But they
yeah,
look very healthy to me, so I'm not a professional, but in my mind, like, why are you wasting your time waiting 12 hours to just be discharged right away?
exactly. There is that. There is the fact also that you think about staying in a hospital for so many hours. If you have something that can be a problem, a serious problem for other people, you will likely be contagious for them,
Yeah.
or you will be exposed to a lot of stuff too, which is, however, something that can create a lot of stress. And I mean, so I think this will be partially solved. Another thing that probably will be solved, or at least supported, is trying to make sure that we don't lose money for exams that are not necessary, so that we can respend that money for people that are really in need of other exams. They can have it maybe for free, or maybe they can have it faster, because if you have a lot of people that are doing a lot of exams, and then those exams are not necessary, you are, however, making other people waiting that maybe they need those exams and they need to wait.
Yeah.
So probably, I don't think it will be only LLM, generative AI behind all this. I think also like traditional data science will be used to make sure that pipelines are optimized, again, with the focus on the patient.
And Stefania, if I may ask you, how does responsible AI play a role when it comes to AI in the health sector or in the different sectors? How can responsible AI play a positive role in the advancement in these fields?
So I will say there are multiple replies to this question.
Okay.
So if I think about, for example, UNESCO principles and the framework itself. So first of all, the first thing is, again, user-centered approach. In this case, it's not even user-centered, is a human right-centered approach and human-centered approach. This means that with responsible AI, we are able, for sure, it's not something that we can do perfectly, because as I usually say in my ethical AI lectures, in general, ethics is not something that is defined and for everybody. Like, we have different ways to define ethics through centuries, through population, and so on. But at least we can agree that we should be able not to harm people. And the fact that we maybe don't have all the research that has been done or all the data behind, we should always make sure that we have that second thought to say, okay, wait, is this something that in the future could create any issue to other people? And this touches for sure the sensitive data, if we think about healthcare, but also if we think any product that is used by a lot of users. It touches also climate change. The fact that we keep going in using a chatbot or generative AI for images, we basically are consuming a lot of energies. I remember that, for example, doing a lot of prompts in 1 month. Yeah, so one prompt only. For the generative AI, for example, I think it was Chat GPT, it was equal to a full charge of your phone. So you can imagine what happens if we start chatting around.
Yeah.
And again, it's what is behind the responsibility that we have. So if we, instead of using all this chatbot, if we can use the general internet, let's use it. And again, the other thing is make sure that we are always in control. And this means making sure that we create projects where people can understand why AI and some part of AI, it might be generative AI or other, are essential for the impact of that project. Making sure that they understand the risk, the limitation, and how to use it. It is something that is referred by UNESCO as a multi-stakeholders responsibility. So we are a team, we are a company. You don't need to be an AI expert to know what is behind some tools that you are using. You need to be responsible on how to use it. So you need also to make sure that you are educated for those tools. And probably this is one of the aspects that we are lacking the most sometimes. We have a lot of people using tools
Without knowing what they're actually for, because it's actually a very interesting point you're bringing, because I don't think a lot of people know the impact, the fact that you're asking ChatGPT or Claude or whatever other kind of tools is out there, like the impact it has on the climate, for example, the energy it consumes. Many people don't know that.
Yeah.
So that is actually a very good point that you're bringing. I'm very actually happy that you brought it up, because more people will start learning about it. And I know for a fact that you're focused on stakeholder-centric AI solutions. So can you share with me how involving users and stakeholders from the start will impact the development of AI systems?
Yeah, so first of all, in general, when we work in projects and we have stakeholders, there is always this step, and it is well described in UX and design, where we have a stakeholder that is asking a team to do something, but then when we do the retroaction, we see that it was not exactly what they were needed at the time. So first of all, like I can see that especially with generative AI, I have a lot of clients that are asking about application with generative AI, and even it's sometimes it's very hard. But the first thing that I usually do is like, why there is a reason to use a generative AI, not only for the complexity, however, to put such a pipeline on, but also again for all the implication when we use it, how it costs basically for the stakeholders, also how it costs in energy, and what are the implications for other matters as we discussed it before. So in order to make sure that this dialogue can keep going, it is essential that the stakeholders can understand what I'm trying to communicate. Like, they don't need to understand the technical part, like the equation behind, but they just need to understand how everything can work together, what are the limitations, what are also the risks, what are also the benefits. One thing that I usually try to use is the framework by UNESCO, because basically from the beginning, so before starting the project, during the development, and also after, there are a lot of questions and also a score on how we are basically doing the things in a responsible way, but also in an aware way, which is something very hard sometimes to obtain, because sometimes you have a plan and then you stick to the plan, but you don't take the time to say, am I doing exactly what is needed? Can I think in a different way? So this is basically all the journey that I usually suggest, and I also usually do. I try to make sure to understand the problem at the beginning. I try to make sure that we have a lot of different tools, and I try like the first thing that I do is the simplest one. Then I go more and more complex. And then every single person that will use that tool, no matter what is the department, is engaged in the conversation. And especially I will always ask, is it something that for you is okay? You will change anything? You will do anything in a different way? How do you feel about that?
Okay, so I kind of understand from what you're saying is that with the multi stakeholder governance model, it really helps ensure that AI is not built in isolation. And it really takes into account the needs, the concerns, and the expertise of everyone who is going to develop the tool and then use the tool.
Yeah.
So I think this is a very good recipe for success. And that actually ties me directly in a key challenge of AI, which is how can we balance innovation and then ethical consideration, especially when it comes to sensitive fields like the one you're working on in healthcare. So can you share with me what are some of the biggest challenges you find or you face when you're trying to maintain this balance?
So I think it's interesting because I was discussing this just last week with a startup. They are trying to create their first product and basically ask the same question. So I think that first of all, we always need to be as much as ethical as possible. It is something that is not easy at all, because sometimes this means that we will need to do some steps in a different way and in a different time. For sure, there are some companies that they cannot really afford to wait a lot of time. So what I try to suggest is that there are things that you cannot really do, like even without speaking about like ethics, because right now we are talking a lot about responsible AI and ethics. Before it was not the case, but there are things that you cannot really do. So it's a way to say, okay, you need to rethink how to do some part of the project in order to make sure also for the sometimes it's also for the reputation of the company. One thing that I usually try really to, how can I say, highlight is making sure that users are not in danger. Okay. This means if I think about in general people working in the healthcare, but also in other products outside the healthcare, but with a lot of data from the users, making sure that there are different layers of anonymization, that the data is collected when it is necessary with the consentment of the user, and that the user know which data and how to cancel the data in any
Okay.
moment, and especially to cancel in a way that is easier, in general easy for the users. I know that there are some companies that let you cancel your data, but the process is so frustrating that at the end the user will not do it. And this is unacceptable.
Yeah, I can relate to that actually. And I mean, not just canceling my data, but sometimes, when you buy something online and then you have to kind of say, yes, I accept to receive promotions, but then you can unsubscribe. But sometimes just to find this unsubscribe button and actually do it is so frustrating. So I can not even begin to imagine the frustration that you actually have to go within like a healthcare company or pharmaceutical company and you need to cancel all your data. It must have a lot of layers. But I think it's a good thing that you're bringing up, that data plays a very important part in our lives, and there must be safeguards to be able for us to protect our data and then to completely remove it if needed for our privacy and security. So it's good to hear that at least people
Yeah.
are working to make this an easier process to
One
be
thing that I
done.
usually say is that data, I know that like it's not always seen this way, but there are companies out there that will pay to have data.
Yeah,
So we have something that is powerful
exactly.
and it's something that is ours, especially.
Yeah, and then again, not many people know that. I feel that there's a lot of education that needs to be done in these aspects to educate us better, to know how to function in this new reality we're living in. Now, moving to our next topic, as I mentioned earlier, you are truly engaged in mentoring, in efforts for women in AI and women in tech, and I would love to shed light more about that.
Yeah.
I would like to know, as someone who's actively contributing to Women for Ethical AI with UNESCO, how do you see the future of ethical AI evolving, and how are women playing a part in it?
I think right now, especially the work, like the collaboration I did with UNESCO, was about understanding in general what is the status right now in terms of gender around the world, in applications, in policies. I will say that there is a lot of work to do. We can see a lot of things that are not still cited, mentioned in the policies regarding minorities. We see a lot of applications that are not built in an ethical way because they don't take into consideration the particularities of the different minorities in general of the population that you can have, and this can have like dangerous consequences. For example, people not able to entering their building because the facial recognition app that has been installed cannot recognize them, or people that are put in jail because for some reason, without even have like a tracking on the reasoning process, there has been a AI model that has recognized the person as with dangerous trait, but we don't know what they are, how they've been calculated, and so on. So
It's interesting that you're bringing these perspectives. A while back, I was actually participating in a conversation for women in AI Canada. And one of the ladies who was at this event, she was talking about how sometimes like AI can produce systemic racism because some of the tools police departments are using actually are biased by the way that they are built because of the lack of diversity. So
yeah.
I think this is great that you're talking about it. And if you can share with us maybe how do you think this could be solved, or how could it be made better or built better?
So I dream that this will be solved, but that's a personal opinion. I'm not sure that we will have 100% of the job done, especially not in the next 5 years, we can say. For sure, what we can do as women and in general as a users is to make sure that our voice can be heard. So raise the voice whenever we see that something it seems weird or is not right. The other thing is, usually during my lectures of ethical AI, I will just have an image of a mirror and I ask to the people, what is this? And they reply, it's a mirror. And I say, yeah. So the way we can really make sure that we are doing something is like making sure that we can reflect the changes, so that we don't need to wait for regulation, frameworks, anything politics or organization. We can already act, and we should, like we must act whenever we see anything that is not correct. For two reasons. There will be companies that until they don't hear people complain, they will not do anything. They will wait. And there are companies that honestly they would like to be helped in making sure that they are doing the right stuff. So having a second people that will say, no, I don't feel comfortable, can help a lot. And the other thing is use any AI tools, also the chatbot, making sure that you do your test before using them without even like asking yourself if there is any bias. And there have been many studies about chatbots that are used right now that have replicate and reproduce bias during the conversation that they were having with the users. And this is extremely dangerous, especially with young people, because they can be influenced without even observing what is happening.
Thank you for sharing your insight on this topic. And one thing that I will remember is, to speak up. I think this is something that more and more people should learn to do, and raise their hands or raise a flag when they see something is not right. And Stefania, you've been deeply involved in initiatives like Google Women Techmakers, Women in AI, and Women in Games. I would love for you to tell us more about your work as an ambassador and the impact this organization can have on the tech community, and especially for women.
Yeah, so basically these organizations they have the same goal, making sure that women have a place, first of all, where they feel safe, and then also a place where knowledge is really shared and is really, we can say, it is at the center of everything. So basically what I do as ambassadors for these several organizations is making sure that I can be a mentor for different people, but also that I can share part of my knowledge to the general public, and making sure that we all share what we know about what is happening around, but also, again, making sure that we can move as a one entity in case we need to have our voice heard by the other companies and organizations.
Thank you so much for sharing what your impact or what your work is with this organization. And one thing you mentioned is mentoring. Can you share with us how mentoring has shaped your career or has helped you in your career? And also, why do you think it's very important for women, especially those who are trying to have a career in tech or grow their career in tech, how mentorship can actually be an ally to them?
Yeah. So no matter what was my role as a mentor or as a mentee, I was able always to learn something, which is something that I'm really grateful for and also very happy about it. I will say that my first job in the video game industry was directly the consequence of some mentorship. So I will say that's why, however, having mentors around you is important. And also it's important because sometimes when you are in tech, you ended up in teams that are male dominant, so you can feel alone. And honestly, having someone that can give you some tips on how to proceed, and also basically telling you that it's something that is common, like that you are not the only one. There are a lot of women in your situation, can help a lot, can help a lot in a psychological way, but also in a concrete way. And the other thing is, with a mentor, you are also able to ask some questions in an informal way, especially for your career. So what are the best moves to do? What are also the moves that maybe you don't want to do? And most of the time, since it's mentoring, this means also that there is the anonymity. We can say there is this report that will be confidential. So you are also more free to ask some questions without being afraid of what can happen.
That's actually very good feedback. And I myself have had a mentor for a long time in my career. And until this day, honestly, I think most of what I have achieved is thanks to her guidance and thanks to how she trained me, or how she sometimes saw a solution that I was maybe too blind to see because I was really in the bubble of the problem, or the situation that I am at. So I am a very strong believer of mentorship, and I always encourage people to seek mentors, regardless of what stage they are in their career. And speaking about mentorship and community, I know for a fact that at Google Women Techmakers, there's a huge event that you organize every year, and I would love for you to shed light on this amazing event that you guys have every year.
Yeah, so we are organizing the International Women Day. It's our 10th year this year, so it will be the giant anniversary. Basically, I started recently as the lead of this chapter for Google Women Techmakers in Montreal. It has been 2 years. My team was of around 4 people at the beginning. Now we are almost 30, so it's
That's
a
awesome.
giant team.
Congrats, yeah.
Thank you. And basically, first of all, the team is not only made by women, but there are also men. And I'm very happy about that, because more and more I see men that want to be involved to support other women, which is something that I usually say at every event. We should make sure that we don't separate. We should be together, trying to solve some challenges. So during the event, this year will be on April 5th. Basically, it's a whole day. We will have soft talks and tech talks. We'll have panels with experts and also with a recruitment agency, so that people can basically making sure that they can have opportunities to have new jobs. We'll have hands-on workshop on different themes that are from basically responsible AI, from to researchers at Mila, to other technologies, because I don't want to do an AI-centered event. Usually I want to be inclusive for the themes that are involved. We usually have a lot of space to make sure that people that participate can discuss with professionals and see if there are any job opportunities. In the past, we had people that were able to have done an internship to a company or also a new job. So basically, this is the reason why we do the event. From this year, it is something really new from, I would say, last week. We are also trying to partner with local businesses that are owned by women, so that we can basically give some coupon to our participants and making them visible to our basically community, so that we can support also local communities.
I really think that this is a fantastic event, because, it's not just an event where people will just go and meet up, but I think it truly helps inspire other women, equip them with tools, and help them to network, because we know that networking is very important. So I really applaud you for organizing such a successful event and, maintaining it year after year.
I will not be in this way without my team, honestly. They do a lot of work.
Well, congrats to your team. They have a great leader. The team is as good as the leader is. So, yeah.
Thank you.
And, I truly believe that creating inclusive spaces is not just about organizing events, but it's about everyday culture. So, what do you think is the key to making AI and tech in general more inclusive for women? If now you were giving this speech in front of executives at big tech companies, what would be your advice to them to make this field more inclusive and more open to women?
I will say making sure that it's like working on evaluating papers in some way, making sure that you don't see only one thing, but the overall plan, the overall team, the overall needs, and also the needs that maybe you are not sure to use today, but they might be interesting for the future. And then making sure that you have a good representativity of any minorities in your team. And any also, we can say, point of view. This means also having multidisciplinary teams. One thing that sometimes I struggle with that is that there are companies that will use the inclusivity more as a check and
Yes.
that's it.
Oh, yes, I know what you mean.
I would love to honestly see that that person that will be in your team is there because it's a woman, yes, but also because, and especially for what they are able to do, because there are a lot of women that maybe are inserted in some team, but then nobody tell them that they are there because they have a lot of skills that were missing in the team. And this is something that we should more and more making sure that we have in our team, that we can act also as people to say, I would like to have that person in my team because she has all these skills and we need that. So I would say not look only to what maybe I don't know how to say it in a correct way, to what politics is telling you right now. It's more on how, if you have a team and you have a project or you have a company, you are not doing things only for your own self. You want to support people. So have a good plan to make sure that you support not a portion of people, but the overall population.
I think that's such a balanced approach if companies would listen to what you have to say. And one thing I want to add, I truly believe that inclusion will happen when you have everyone, like the men, the women in the company, work together to create these supportive environments. And I think, and not think actually, I believe that change really happens when it's a collective effort rather than, it's just a battle, it's me against the system. So,
Exactly.
yeah, I like what you said about always thinking in mind that you're not just doing a product to serve one part of the community or one part of the system, like it's everyone.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your opinion with us. And looking ahead, what excites you the most about the future of AI, whether it's in the domain you're working in right now, biotech, or just beyond that?
I will say for sure it will be, maybe there is one thing that excite me the most is the fact that more and more we will be able to make sure that AI is accessible and I hope in a responsible way for more and more people so that we can have more point of view and more creative stuff, because before we had the tools but we didn't have the people because those tools were not accessible enough. So I hope there will be a lot of education around those tools so that we can, however, use it in a responsible way. But especially we will have more and more people, more and more minds, more and more ideas, more creativity. So this is the thing that I really, really hope, and I think I will keep going dreaming in this way.
That is such an exciting vision. The more we democratize AI, the more we can open the door for innovators from all backgrounds to shape the future.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned earlier, AI is not just for engineers, it's actually also for creatives, problem solvers, and people who want to make an impact. Stefania, this conversation has been incredible. I mean, we spoke from AI ethics to healthcare to mentorship and inclusivity. And you've shared a lot of valuable insight with us. And I would like to thank you once again for making time for us. I know you're a very busy woman, and for sharing your experience and your views about AI and being an inspiration to other women in tech. So I want to thank you very much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure for me. Thank you again for the invitation.
Thank you so much. To all of our listeners, thank you for tuning in, and see you next time in another episode of Femmegineering, Women of Influence.